Hello, welcome to TDF Exclusive. I'm Kavita Hawaii. Our topic for this exclusive one-on-one is the new BRICS era, challenges and opportunities. Obviously a lot to cover. This is a growing bloc, as it's been noted for the past years. And we have with us our guest, Marta Fernandez, who joins us. Marta Fernandez is the director of the BRICS Policy Center think tank, Puki Hiyo. Welcome.
Thank you for the invitation.
Sure. Well, let's get right to it. You represent, but you cover Brazil. Brazil, one of the founding members of BRICS, and obviously a very important contributor. Tell us why that is and where things stand now when it comes to Brazil and BRICS in general.
Okay, Brazil is now hosting the BRICS Summit that will happen in July in Rio de Janeiro. And Brazil has put an emphasis on this platform because Brazil understands this platform as very important for the global south. And BRICS is very aligned with the historical demands of Brazil to democratize the global governance. So Brazil, since the beginning, or after the Second World War, has been claiming to the reform of the United Nations Security Council or even of the Bretton Woods institutions. So Brazil, in some way, put several priorities to this summit. For example, one of the priorities is, in fact, to discuss the reform of the global governance, because Brazil understands that the order that was created after the Second World War does not represent the new configuration of power, and at the same time, when this order was created, great part of the global south is under colonial rule. So in some way, these institutions reflect the geopolitical and economic hierarchies of the world. So I think that Brazil feels very comfortable in BRICS because in some way, in BRICS you can have this so-called rest of the world that have gaining voice and participation in the world. So for Brazil, BRICS is very, very important because in some way BRICS gives continuity to a third world or a non-alignment position that in some way claiming for sovereignty, for multilateralism, for multipolarity, and for global justice, for example.
Indeed. Well, I'm going to come and ask you about the last points that you just made. Multipolarity, multilateralism is not something that some countries in the West, and I think you can take a guess which country I'm referring to, particularly stand for. Nevertheless, need to understand the way that some of the BRIC countries are not on the same page when it comes to something like the US dollar, as an example. So if you don't mind just explaining to us the role that, or the perspective that Brazil has on that.
Yeah, Brazil in fact have been discussing and problematizing the international economic order since it understands that this is dominated by the United States and by the dollar as the reference currency. And Brazil is in favor of diversification, of the possibility that countries can increase the trade in local currencies. And this is one of the aims of the summit that will be realized, that will be take place in Rio in July. But I think also that Brazil traditionally has this position of neither being a West, neither Eastern country, or neither being the South and neither the North, to be a little bit as have the freedom to navigate through the different regions of the world. So if you consider, for example, that Trump recently have said that if BRICS countries remain with the de-dollarization process, he will put the same percent of tariffs against the BRICS. So this, of course, make the BRICS countries to give a step back, but they are trying to explain that the idea is not de-dollarization, but the idea is that the countries can have trade in their own currencies and that this trade increase. So for the countries, this is very important, specifically in this international scenario where, for example, there are unilateral sanctions and tariffs. So what countries of the Global South are feeling is that they are very vulnerable to the US dollar. So one way to protect themselves is to diversify relations and to get some financial sovereignty. So the idea of the BRICS is very much this idea of plurality, to respect each country political system, process of modernization, language, and currency. So the idea is exactly this. The idea that in some way you have to have several histories and not only one history that impose its currency, its language, its ideology, its way of being. So this is what have been discussing in BRICS. The idea that difference is not a problem, but can be resignified as a value.
Okay, obviously we don't have the time to talk about all the different countries as the major players and the ones that have joined and the different aspects and angles that you talked about. But thank you very much for your input on this, Marta Fernandez, Director of BRICS Policy Center think tank, Puki-Hiyo, correct?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. We look forward to the summit that's happening in Rio in the month of July.
Okay, thank you very much.